In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can use BeatSheet Studio as a virtual cam in your presentations and Zoom calls.
Thank you, Rob. It's always a pleasure to come in and I keep seeing my face in my social media feeds now. It's like, oh, who's this guy? Oh, someone else is uploading pictures of my face. Okay. It's weird being the sole developer and creator on a product, and just it's a video product, so it's always my face over and over again.
Yes.
Anyway, so as Rob was saying, like every Wednesday I do a lab in a Zoom breakout room on After Hours, which is a 24/7 Zoom attached to a daily Q&A show called Office Hours Global, where various experts answer questions about cameras, microphones, various technical aspects of digital creativity. So it's like some fairly like some grizzled, experienced techie people. So and they're sort of coming into my lab every Wednesday for a bit. So like, even though I have done a lot of live streaming in the past, I've done a lot of playing music live on stream, and that's pretty brutal when you're starting out. I really learned about trolling, all that stuff. So, I've been sort of through the thick of Twitch. And I sort of did a podcast for 4 years every single week as well. And that was like an hour, 2 hours every week. But like, I never put a lot of preparation into my shows. Like, they were always like, okay, we decide like either the week before or on the day what we're going to talk about. We sort of like talk, see where it goes. I edit it, or like as we time went on, we'd sort of like we'd get a bit better at that. Whereas the music thing, I'll tend to jump on and improvise, and it'll be sort of relatively loose. But with this audience, who I just knew I had to do better with this. So unlike a live stream, I'd be able to actually see their faces and disappointment. And, it's one thing to get like someone saying something negative in chat, but it's another thing to sort of see someone's face who is very clever and knows loads about this stuff. And you just don't want to say the wrong thing. So, and also they could just jump in and at any moment as well. So it was a bit of a Zoom call. And just to be clear, like, it started out as a weekly Zoom call, and now I broadcast like my camera from that, and sometimes sort of dial in the Zoom call. But I'm doing this sort of like dual thing, so it's not a straightforward live stream, it's not a straightforward Zoom call, but it's like I'm doing this hybrid so that I can kind of have real chat and also the YouTube chat as well, and then I've got something to link people to with the full content. But yeah. What I found with BeatSheet Studio is that it's sort of almost made it easier for me to be prepared than not. Like, I really felt it. Like last week, I was just exhausted. I sort of didn't want to do the session. I felt very unprepared. But because like BeatSheet Studio is how I connect my camera, monitor my audio, do my screen shares, and sort of connect to Video Pencil and all these kinds of things. It's sort of running anyway. And then I'm sort of sitting there with the clock counting down. It's like, okay, I'm going live in like 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. I've just got my cards. Okay, let's put something in these cards, these blank cards that are in front of me. And then suddenly I've got a bit of structure, and suddenly I've got a show, even when I was trying not to. But like, if you are being prepared, it's just, I just always have some stuff ready so that I've got something to show people, which I found is really important, because when I tried doing it in a sort of improvised free-for-all way, it did get a bit chaotic,
Yeah, and on top of that, do you find you're able to be a little bit more authentic, or even have a little bit more of your personality in it when you have like a structure? So like you're not thinking of what to say next or what point if I'm trying to hit. Do you find you can be a little bit more natural that way too?
Well, for sure, and some kind, and you can see like I'm sort of switching between. I've prepared some language because I don't want to be umming and ahhing my way through it, because it's like, how do I describe this Zoom call? It's really complicated to explain. If I were to just try and like do it off the top of my head, we'd be here all day. But I was like, okay, well, we're doing this thing. Let me just try and like describe that, and so I prepared that. But then sometimes I'll just have a couple of words or a title or a bullet point, and then I just know I can sort of talk freeform on that subject for as long as it's needed. So it's sort of gives me an anchor to make sure that I'm not just like a rabbit in the headlights, but it also sort of, I can put as little or as much into that as I want, depending on, what it is really. It's sort of a case by case thing, really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think when you're ready, I'd say we jump into it. And I'll just do a quick side note. If anyone hasn't used BeatSheet Studio yet, I would check out part 1 or just go through, because there's a few things you want to do first that we're not going to take the time, including installing the virtual mic and virtual camera, which sounds like a lot, but it's just some clicks and restarting the software. So if you haven't done that, you need to do that first. But let's assume we've already done that. Maybe we've started to play around in BeatSheet Studio, so we can skip all the introductory things, so to speak.
Yeah. Exactly. And for me, like, I'm just running this straight from Xcode, which is the development software. So you don't need to do that. You can just run it from your computer. Hilarious nerd joke for you there. Um, I'll first show you what my studio looks like. So
Let's just cut you to full screen.
here is my perspective. So I've got like, this is like my safe monitor. So my laptop screen is what I'm sharing. I've got my nice microphone here. I've got a teleprompter here. I've got sort of my big light, and then this is my big monitor where I put all the stuff, and we can sort of see that from the side a bit as well. So I have got a big camera in there. I've got an iPad Mini in there, and it's screen sharing. And so like this is sort of like the sort of posh way to do it, right? But you can also do it just, here's me doing it a couple of weeks ago, just in a Airbnb. So literally, I've got my iPad down here, I've got my laptop, and then I've just got Shoot on my phone on a stick, and I could do all the same stuff. But it's just it's nice to be on my big camera. We get a slightly better color off it's just a nicer lens, the Canon lens. But I was doing these live streams just with iPhone, iPad, laptop, and getting pretty much the same production values, and like a lav mic just plugged in like that.
Well, even what you just did, I mean, here we are, we're recording this remotely, and you were able to easily just show the cameras behind the scene, which I was, obviously kind of nerding out about because I love that. And then you just cut to a cool time lapse of you building it. So I assume that was already in. It's not like you were just fishing around for 10 minutes to find it and load it and click here on YouTube. So do you want to even quickly break that down, or am I jumping ahead already?
Well, I mean, like you are jumping ahead a little bit. Yeah, but this is the beauty of like Beat Sheet Studio. Sometimes it's just easier to have a little video clip than to sort of like, you can, Beat Sheet Studio does let me kind of connect a second wireless camera and wave it around, but like sometimes it's just like, Sharon, can you just film me putting my studio together? And then I just done that in, and it's done, it's just ready. So yeah, and that's just works with Beat Sheet Studio. That's just like a card in the deck, and I can just throw that in and just it's just all you've got to do is drag the file in. I took the picture on my phone, I airdropped it to my laptop, dragged it onto the card. It was a last minute thing, that picture of the rig. I literally just set up the light like 20 minutes ago. Finally, I've rearranged my studio, so I've been doing some stuff today. But yeah, it's really easy to just take a picture. And actually, something you can do if you're using the iPad is you can even sort of take a screenshot, like copy that onto the clipboard, and then just paste it onto the iPad, and that will come through to the feed as well. So there's all sorts of really sort of like seamless ways to get content onto the thing that doesn't involve, that whole kind of, can you share my screen rigmarole? Or like, I don't know how you'd even do that sort of in a normal Zoom call without like, what would you do? Here you can just, and I'm sort of making it so that Beat Sheet Studio will literally just let you drag an image directly into the window at any time and share that.
Yeah.
So, and I think that just gives you a lot, right?
Definitely. Yeah, and I think anyone that's been on a Zoom call in the past couple years, especially for work, you've been on those calls where someone's like, oh, let me show you this or share the screen, and it takes so long, and by the, it's just, there is something about it to keep people engaged. And if you're being on camera, let's just say to drive revenue, to keep it simple, that's the name of the game. The longer people are watching your content and into it, the more you can like engage your clients. I think you're going to see better results. So, I mean, I'm sold. How do we do it? Where's the easy button?
You don't want to be, sorry about that, like water drinking. Like, I don't know when to drink water when we're doing these things, but it's so important.
When you're thirsty.
You can hear my throat drying out. Like, yeah, like you don't want to interrupt your flow. You want to be able to stay sort of like, there's nothing worse than waiting for someone to like muck around with a technical thing when it's not that important. It's like it's a moment of delight, but like it's not that important. It's not important enough to jump a technical hurdle most of the time. So that's why I've sort of made this thing to make it like minimize that friction and just let you do things that you just wouldn't dare to do in any other situation.
When you talk about how much of an impact investing time into being on camera and to just doing these extra things, I don't think people realize it's not always you're going to make more money, but you can just like capture your audience in such a way. It almost gives you a lot more control over how you want to be seen, on camera and how you're presenting. And a great example of how this can just hurt you is a huge lawsuit going on is with the movie Rust, the Alec Baldwin movie where the cinematographer died. There was a live round in the gun instead of a blank, which is so dumb. So they're going through the case and it's in the trial and it's all virtual still. And the main lawyer, this is live, is like, sorry, judge, I can't hear you. You can't hear, he's going through this whole thing. It's like, this is a huge national case. And I'm just like, and you could see just all the comments. And this is through a very popular lawyer channel that like goes through. It's really interesting because then you learn about law and how the court is run. Anyways, it was just so crazy that I was like, oh my gosh, I need to like screenshot this and use this for my advertisement, because like what a better example of like how you don't want to look on camera. And I don't want to be mean or rub it in anyone's face, but it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. Like literally thousands of people are telling you how they would never work with this lawyer and he seems like a joke. And he could be an amazing lawyer, but...
Absolutely, like you could be the top of your game, you could be the best lawyer, judge, whatever, but like as soon as you start like being confused by Zoom, you sort of look like an incompetent grandpa, right? Like you just look like you don't know what's going on anymore. It's a real tragedy because but the the opportunity it gives people like us who want to engage with it is that we look sort of, you really stand out, even if you just are able to do a little thing like that. And that's that's one of the I kind of honed in, just standing out on Zoom and Teams. It's just something that it just really gives you a leg up and just makes people kind of pay more attention to you, I think, as well. Like, oh, okay, he's clearly, if you're just able to kind of come through with this.
So, anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. I just thought that was very relevant, and it made me think of that when you were just able to seamlessly go through sharing your setup, showing a time lapse, and cutting right back to you without stopping. It's pretty cool.
Don't get me started on the audio quality of those Trump hearings videos. No. It's like, just get a microphone, guys. Like, what are you doing? All right, so let me sort of go over to the desktop, and I'll show you kind of like how my document's going to look. So if we come to here. So this is my sort of weekly session beat sheet document. If I make that thinner, I can zoom in on it a little bit. How about we do that? So Beat Sheet Studio, one of the nice features is I can just sort of like zoom in like that. I think.
So how are you zooming in on that? That's cool.
How I'm zooming in on that is. Well, I could either do it with the trackpad on the video preview in Video Pencil in Beat Sheet Studio, but what I do is I do it on the iPad because I've got my Apple Pencil ready and like I want to be able to draw on things. So it just lets you. And this was a technical feat. It's not just like networking audiovisual, but also just the maths of it, like freaking matrix transformations. Anyway. If you zoom in on the iPad, it zooms in on the desktop, on your computer's desktop for you. So, I can just zoom in. I can say, okay, I want to zoom in on this card here. And I just want to sort of like, draw something around here and say, hey, here's this card. Here's what we're doing. Like that. That is all just because I've got this iPad app, I've got this Mac app, they're seamlessly connected. It means I can do all these crazy things to sort of make it really natural. Just nothing feels more natural than just like, oh, I can see the screen share on my iPad. I can just like zoom in, zoom out, like move it around. I can see what I'm doing. So this is like my basic this is the document I start with. And you can see here, like, because this is, so I'll basically save as each week to create the new session. So I'll get all the sort of stuff from the previous week, and then I'll just like edit a few things and like delete the content from the previous week and add new content just so that I keep my, my stuff. So I have this landing screen, which just sort of lets people on the Zoom call kind of see my tile will have this in it. And then also, the reason there's a space here is because I have this countdown timer as well. So if I say like start that, so that's going to look like this. And so you can sort of see, okay, we've got this is how long till the thing starts. And this was if I get back to here and come back to here, we have some interesting challenges switching between documents for the sake of this. Let me just stop that.
We have a few things running.
Yeah, I'm like trying to show you my thing, but without like ruining another thing. Okay, right, we're back. That's gone. So just to show you, that was what that looks like. It's got the it's got the card, but then it's got that countdown timer that appears. And the way I do the countdown timer is I know what time my call starts, so you can I can clear that out, and there's a little timer button. No, it's done something.
That's all right.
Let me just stop so that I can get back my screen share. It's the hardest thing. Like, we're back to this Inception thing, but what I wanted to show you, if I can show you this, so there's a little clock icon there. You can just click on that and say what time you're starting, and it will just, when you press start, it will just put up that countdown timer. And that's it's styled the way I like it. And that is sort of on one side, but that's one of those things I made because I really wanted it. And I thought, people will use this. There's more complicated ways of doing it. Like, if you want to use it, that's there. If you don't, it's fine. But I find it really useful. You can set timers. There's all sorts of web-based, web-based things that you can overlay into your OBS and do it. Or Ecamm will let you add a timer to a scene and sort of say when it finishes. But you're sort of clicking on quite a lot of things and editing quite a lot of things. And really, all I want to tell it is I'm starting at 6, so I'm just going to write 6 o'clock in that thing and then press play, and then I don't have to think about that anymore. And then when I open it next week, it knows 6 o'clock. It's not counting down to 2 weeks ago, right? Or 1 week ago. It's counting down to 6 o'clock today. So that's just a little thing, because I'll be live. I'll be on the Zoom, and there'll be a load of people on that group Zoom chat, and I want them to see that it's starting soon. And then I press go in Ecamm 3 minutes before the start, and I just like there to be a timer on there so people can just skip forward 3 minutes in the VOD and find the start of it and not have to sort of sit through the mucking about. So that's just a handy little affordance that I've added in. It's one of those things. Every week I have a day which I call my free swim day, which is where I've had a little idea that it's just something I want. And so that was one of my, I'm going to make a little one at a time. This is we used to have these when at school. The videos they'd show at school in the 80s would have this style of countdown. There was always something about it that I really liked. I think I want to try and make that as a shader. So I figured out how to do it, and we end up with all these little random features in, because I try to always make myself a creative day every week, so that it's not all just fixing. Oh my goodness, some of the stuff you have to fix, the networking and audio and video and frames getting dropped and audio buffers getting looped weird. It's nice to sometimes add in a little treat,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I live. The other thing you can see here is when you do open that document, you see it's giving me a warning that so it's something that one of my cards wants to connect to my phone. But that phone isn't currently plugged in, so it always it will give you a warning, and it'll give you a little drop down if you want to use a different phone or something for that, and it will just replace it in the document. So I think it's also I want you to feel comfortable when you go live as well. So that's one of the reasons that you get this the audio meters that it keeps going into that thing. Oh, that's fine. It keeps triggering this card when I don't want it to. Can I get the screen share back?
On your end or on my end?
On my end. I'm trying to get my screen share back. Okay. Yeah. So this is why I have my.
And I think you put a text up. I wasn't sure if you weren't.
I need to clear that. That's not supposed to be there. Okay. So you see, the audio meter, I think it's really important. Not all audio meters are created equal. Let me just make sure my face is showing. But this one is actually, there's quite a lot of tech into making sure that when that's green, it means your levels are good, and it will kind of be relatively stable compared to a lot of meters. And if I come up and I start going too loud, it will sort of quickly show you that you've got an issue. I didn't want to go too loud then though.
That's great.
So one of the things I'm trying to do is give you that level of comfort, and this thing is just part of that. When I made this document, I wanted to share something in one of the cards, and it would be easy to get to that part of the show and then go, I didn't plug in the phone. So I wanted to make sure that was surfaced. So that's sort of before we even get started. Then I have my little, here's my intro. So this is sort of refined over the I've been doing this lab since January. I really didn't know what it was going to be to start with. Someone was just like, do a lab. I'm like, what's a lab? Let's just figure it out as we go. But this just, you see, it has a title. And you can see the preview here. I just use a bottom one. So it's like Squares TV App Lab. It's about Shoot. It's about Beat Sheet. It's about Pencil. And like I'm broadcasting my own camera on YouTube, and I'll keep this. So I've got some sort of like housekeeping stuff I need to cover every week, and it's just good to sort of have that up, and that comes into my teleprompter, and I can sort of like hit the ground running. And then I'll have my kind of general, show points. Like, let me see what happens if I press this. Yeah, we've exited the screen share. So, and then I'll have my, let me know if you want to talk about anything. And then, and so wherever you see this, you see there's going to be a title on my screen. And then like this was a session where I was talking about my travel rig. So I knew that, actually I did the agenda like this that day. So I just had some bullet points. But like another day, something that's quite handy is if you do have a lot of stuff, and you've structured it with titles throughout, something you can do for the teleprompter is just put this TOC thing in, and then what that looks like, that will actually just take all of those titles and just put them up so that you can sort of instantly have your sort of tell people what you're going to be talking about today without having to like go through the whole thing and remember what you were going to talk about. So that's just like, this is sort of a markdown convention. So table of contents, this will just bring in all the titles and put that on the teleprompter for you. So sometimes, so I'll be using like bullets for these things. I'll be using different layouts for those depending on what it is. So this one, this one might be down the bottom. Here I've got like a background picture. Here I've got something that's down, sometimes I want to be in the middle. And then I might prepare like a video or two. And I have this sort of growing library of clips. And I might do like I might just have a screen recording to show something. I might have a photo, but like often it's a screen recording. And something that Beat Sheet Studio will do is if you drag, like a screen recording can end up being a really high resolution, high frame rate, heavy file. But Beat Sheet Studio will just like convert that to a high efficiency video codec, 1080p video for you when you drag it in, so that your files don't get like enormous. So that was just like another little thing. It's easy to accidentally like bloat the size of a document if that hasn't been done. So I find that really useful for screen recordings, because it just like, it's going to make that right for the the webcam. Your webcam isn't going at 60 frames a second. Zoom is not like putting 60 frames a second 4K. So there's no point in having that video in that resolution. But you don't have to do anything; it just converts it for you. So sometimes it's a screen recording. Sometimes I do an animation in like Apple Motion, which is my sort of animation tool of choice, more than After Effects or Blender, or like an animation tool that I've created myself. So it's nice to sort of throw something like that in, and just being able to drag the video in makes it really easy to include that. And so I'm talking about that, but I need to show you what that looks like. So you see here, I just had a video with where I kind of like, one of these is a video, where I just like unboxed my little bag of tricks and kind of like showed what it was. And also, if you're sort of demonstrating some more complicated technical thing, it's useful to, like, we were talking about installing, Beat Sheet Studio, installing the virtual camera. Like that's, the virtual mic, in fact, like you've got to reboot your computer, and it's a bit of, it's not something you really want to do a live demo of. So if you can just sort of screen record that process, then you only ever have to do that once. And now if anyone ever asks, I can just like drag the video in and show them that, rather than having to like muck about, like, oh, click over here, but I've already installed it, so you'll see something different and it will say this. And like, it's nice to just have that little library of clips. And you can also, like, sometimes I'll put the videos on the iPad as well. So like, let me see if I can sort of demonstrate that. So if I load up, here's one of my animation videos. This should be coming through. So this is coming off the iPad now. And I've got pause points. So it stopped there. I press play. and it's going to play the next little bit of animation for us. And I can say, okay, and this is the, this is how BeatSheet Studio, it gives you a virtual camera that connects to Zoom and Teams. I can press play, and it also connects to Shoot, wirelessly, and then I can press play again and continue the animation, and it automatically connects to Video Pencil, and then I can press play again and say, and then it automatically connects to your Stream Deck, and you can also like make it work with Ecamm Live and all those other things. So it's really useful to have, I can actually do like picture-in-picture directly on the iPad as well. And there's all sorts of like nooks and crannies because of the ways this software evolved, that just like, that it's very powerful, I guess, is the point. Because, but like actually like those features, once they're there, they're pretty easy to access.
Yeah, I mean, do you even want to go through? I know you have the slides already, but do you even want to go through and just show how easy it is? Make a new slide, drag in this video that you want to play after a certain part in the presentation. Like, do you want to just walk through that quick little? We'll switch back here, switch switch.
Right. So here's my document. So I have like here's a little folder organization tip. I have on my Mac. I have in my sidebar. I actually have clips, and then I have all my different clips that I might want to use organized, because these were kind of like a bit of a content point on the podcast and things. So let's say I want to quickly show you my, I don't know, like my Legend of Zelda antics.
Yes, I've got these. That's what we're here for.
Like little clips of I don't know, like stuff happening. I was like, that was Nintendo.
I mean, this is a great example. Let's say we are selling software or whatever. We would treat this. This could be, a screen recording, like you said, of something, or if you're creating a game, you're showing gameplay. Or for me, if I'm in a pitch meeting, instead of saying, hold on, wait here, can you hear it? I could have a preloaded reel or video that I want to show.
Yeah.
Which is really
and
cool.
So all you do here, well, in fact, all you have to do, this is going to be a bit of feedback, but actually all you have to do is just drag that into the window and that will play. So you saw that I just dragged that in and it just started playing. But like that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is if you want it to be part of your presentation at a certain point in time. So I'll go to the card. So what I'll tend to do is I'll click into the card that I want it to be before. I'll press Command Enter to make a new card. This is the card, right? So I might say, okay, my, Zelda antics, and then you can literally just like take your video and drag it on there,
right,
and you'll
into
see
the card.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, just into the car. You see it's converting, and it's just there. And you get the option to loop that. So if it was a short clip, you could. Sorry, I just need to clear that thing. We quit the wrong thing. Sorry. Let me.
It's all right.
It's like I'm running two BeatSheet documents.
I know you usually are.
One of the things I need to figure out with this is like how on earth. I think I need to add more and more features within BeatSheet Studio for showing people how to use BeatSheet Studio, which gets a little bit crazy, but I think it's the only way to do it. But anyway, the point was you can choose to loop that, and I will be adding in. Yeah, I haven't added this in yet, but like there's going to be a little bit of extra stuff around. Like, do you want it to come in muted? Like, do you want to have pause points in there? So that will all be on that little card. And this is still like the beta version that we're looking at here. But yeah, there'll be a bit of control because sometimes you want the audio and that you want to maybe like adjust the volume on that. Just you hear it. It's a bit of a loud clip. It's a bit of a quiet clip. So there'll be stuff on that card to just sort of adjust how you want that to look. You can set the playback speed. You can scrub through that like in the camera, and I'm working on stuff to make that work more intuitively with the Stream Deck. So like if you went into a video, if it had pause points, you press next, it's going to sort of play to the next pause point next. Once it gets to the end of the video, pressing next goes to the next card, right? Just to make that cool. Very seamless. And yeah, I did quite like, having my, I did my little, here's what I'm doing. I mean, here's what's in my special bag of tricks. I'll play it. I'll risk playing it.
Yeah.
But here's my sort of special bag of tricks. I can sort of change the playback speed. So what I did was, put that to 16 speed. So now I've got like basically a time lapse. Let's go 32 speed. Here's me just like showing everything that's in my little case. I can
Yeah.
sort of scrub back through that. And yeah, it's just really handy having a little video, and it's it's the easiest thing in the world to just make a quick video clip, isn't it?
That's great. Yeah, I
So
would say too, if
that's
you want, just because I think that I'm just making a note here. I'll edit this part out. Do we want? Can you do one more quick run through? Because I think like this is like such a great short clip that I want to have, where it's like literally like if you want to add a video into your presentation, here's how you do it. Because I think, and then because it's so easy and quick, I hit Command Enter, the card comes up, I can take some talking notes or just tell myself what it is, drag and drop, it auto converts, so you don't have to worry about, and then we're done. Like just a quick, concise. Because I think that would be a great clip. So I'll just start with.
Okay.
So Michael, why don't you just show us how easy it is to throw in a video clip to your presentation? How does that work in BeatSheet Studio?
All right, I'll kind of like start with a fresh document. So let me just share my desktop for you. So here's my desktop. Here's a BeatSheet Studio. Well, window. Sorry, can we? I
Yeah,
changed
go
my
ahead. We
mind
can start it.
about that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I would just keep it with that one. We'll delete that one, and yeah, I mean, you kind of teed it off, and then I know we had a little tech issues, but in my head I was like, oh, this is gold. So when it disrupted, I was like, maybe we'll try this one more time. So no, that's okay. Here, we'll cut back.
Let's just go one more time.
Yeah, definitely. We can start from this screen if you want. I can ask you the question, or you can just start from here. Yeah, I was just gonna say from here, and I'll do the show us how to throw in a video in our presentation, then we'll go. Okay, cool. So Michael, it is very easy, obviously, to throw in a video seamlessly. We don't have to wait for the screen share. So why don't you show us on the back end how that works, how users using this would add in a video?
Yeah, absolutely. So if this is my BeatSheet document, all I've got to do is click into a card, press Command Enter. That gives me a new card. I can add some notes. It's like me failing at Zelda, let's say. And then like I've got on my computer, I've got a nice, I've got this sort of like organized list of things, different video clips. I have some off here. So all I've got to do is drag this on to the card. And now that's just going to like convert, and you see that converting. And now like you see that video, we can set that to loop. We'll be able to set the volume on that and things like that. Literally just press play on that card, and it's gonna play that video back.
Great.
And
Perfect.
And if you and actually, like if you didn't even want to set up a card in advance, you can just drag directly onto the BeatSheet video preview, and it will just like play the video. So.
Very cool.
With sound.
Awesome. Yeah. So what next? What do you want to show next in the process?
Next in the process. So sometimes just a point on screen sharing. I do like to have like a dedicated display for my screen shares, partly because there is a bit of a technical thing at the moment that you can zoom in on the desktop, but I haven't figured out the trigonometry for zooming in on Windows shares. So I just keep a desktop free. There is a clever way of, even if you don't have an external display, being able to plug in a little $3 dongle and make it think that there's an external display and use that. But in this case, which is what I did when I was away, but when I've got my big screen, I've got my second screen, I'll tend to keep a display free. And then I'll use the laser pointer on that. So BeatSheet Studio has the laser pointer that you can draw on things. But sometimes I'll want to show a second camera, and you can also with BeatSheet Studio, we can find it. Let's try and demonstrate this. If you did have. So if you've got an iPhone, so what I do is I have like a row of, I have a sort of like row of permanently charging old iPhones, iPhone 7, I've got an iPhone 6, but if you've got your phone, you can just launch Shoot on your phone, and that's going to be, so that's Shoot is a camera app that I made that lets you use your phone as a webcam. So you see, here's me on camera in my studio. Now on the desktop, if I click in on a card, let's just say, I want to show something here. If I open up this card now, I can go, let me just make sure that's going to show up. I can go share a camera. I can select as my second camera. I can select Shoot on that phone. And now it's actually going to give me all the manual controls for that camera as well. But like when we land on that card, it's going to show that phone. So if I had like an overhead camera that I wanted to switch to, that's the easiest way to do it. And I will yeah, so you can. So the idea is that you like share anything in the same way. You just add it to a card, and so that can be, images, videos, your desktop, a particular window. It can be the audio from Zoom, but it can also be like the video feed from a camera, any number of like other cameras that are connected to the same network. So and then you can sort of like do the same. You can draw on that and point things out and zoom in and all those kinds of things too. So and one other like tip. So if I do have some content that I want to reuse somewhere else, so I'm doing my live stream every week, and there's the sort of format points for that it's a lab live stream, sort of my intro and outro and all that stuff. But sometimes I might, one particular one is introduction to beat sheet, but instead of like sort of knitting that in with the weekly show, I will make that as a separate document so that I can kind of come back to that document and keep editing that and sort of have that on hand when I need to do an introduction to beat sheet. But this way, I'll just put a note in one of the cards in my lab session to jump over to this other document, and I'll switch over to that one, and I'll switch back once I'm at the end of that document. And then that's the sort of way of like sort of being able to reuse the content. And in future that will be a bit more of a first class feature of the app as well, just being able to just sort of jump into the search bar, immediately bring in another demo that you've made. So you can imagine like you get a question on a sales call or something about some particular feature of your software. You can just quickly like type in the search bar, pull up this whole 5-slide deck that's got a video attached. You can just instantly like put that in front of the customer and kind of go, look, here it is, take them through, and then sort of jump out of that immediately. So that's something but at the moment, like I will just say, okay, remember to open this document. I'll jump out. You can do it with triggers and stuff as well. But so you might not always put everything in one big document. You might sometimes want to separate a couple of things out because you might want to use those again.
Yeah, I have a question too. So if you're obviously the advantage is you have everything in order, but let's say we are going between this stage kind of sequence and we're sharing screen, but then our client or the guest, whoever's on the other side watching this, they're asking questions. Is there an easy way to then just cut back to yourself full screen if you're answering questions, like especially with live stream? Or again, maybe I'm jumping ahead, so let me know.
No, well, I mean, this is something that's really a core part of the way Beat Sheet works as well. And you've seen me moving stuff. So there's two ways you can do that. You can either just like close off what you were sharing. So I've finished like showing my slides. So at all times there's a big like clear button, and there's the aside 3D button. So the clear button lets me, so say I'm sharing my desktop, I'm talking about something, but I just want to sort of like talk to camera, but we're still talking about the desktop. So that's still down here. And in fact, I can still be sort of like drawing on here and sort of doing things down here. And then I can just sort of hit aside again, and we're back to my picture in picture. We're in here, but sometimes you just want to like temporarily jump onto the camera, jump back. And I'm probably going to add a few. I like this 3D mode, but I did see it's quite a slick presentation where it was more of a cut or a dissolve, and I think that can be useful as well. But sort of maintaining context, but being able to be on camera. So we're not switching to a different scene. Like you can still see that this is what we're talking about. And then the other way is just in the Beat Sheet window, if we are presenting something, I will bring this up. You're going to see these buttons here. Let me just go to demo mode. Yeah, so this is, oh no, that doesn't work. Okay, not demo mode. So we're going to get the feedback, but we get, as I think we've shown before, like we've got this this clear button will show sort of like the appropriate thing. So if there are some titles, if I were presenting, say I've got like my names up there, I want to share my desktop. So
that's I know it's so hard to when you want to share so many things.
Yeah. So here's that thing. So you see now it says like clear slide. So that's going to, if I press that once, it's going to clear the text off the bottom of the screen. And then if I press it again, it's going to end the screen share. So it's sort of like takes a sequence of like, sort of exiting out of what you're doing. So, which I've just tried to like make the most logical. And obviously, like if anyone finds that it's sort of going in the wrong order for them, this is why I'm beta testing and why I'm always open to emails and stuff. But yeah, so but just to come back to the sort of to sort of polish off how my live streams tend to work. The last thing with any stream is actually I'm gonna bring back my latest one. So this is number 30 that we're working on. It's sort of like sometimes. So there's a glitch where it doesn't show the picture-in-picture straight away sometimes. So I keep having to kind of come in and out again. And also now it's showing Michael at Squares TV when I don't want it to. Man. And now it's showing the timer when I don't want it to. Rob, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's gonna be
that's why I edit.
Right. Okay. So back to the desktop. So it's we've gone through all the content. I've sort of said everything I want to say this week. Then sort of ending things is a bit of an art into itself. So something I've settled on is I always have a bit of a call to action title, so that while I'm yammering on and saying goodbye, thank you everyone for coming, and I can make some notes and maybe say, sometimes, I had some notes here, which was like, don't forget to shout out a couple of the other labs and podcasts that are happening later from some other people that are on the call. So I'll sort of make notes for myself, because when you're in the thick of this presentation, you're answering questions, you're doing all this stuff, it can be easy to forget like the housekeeping stuff. So I'll have as I get to the end, okay, I'll stick this on screen. Everybody, if you're interested in continuing to talk about this stuff, just come and find me here, squares.tv/discord. And then I've actually now got a little sort of end graphic, which I will. So here's sort of what that looks like. So everybody, we're finishing up. And then as we go to the next one, I will just hit next. We'll just get a little kind of outro video, and with that, my face was on there, but I can make it so my face is. I need to actually do that. Make it so that my picture-in-picture isn't switched on for that. Just that final bit of housekeeping where you're just trying to make sure that you kind of don't forget your calls to action and all those things that we're supposed to do. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all those things, which when you're in the thick of it can be very easy to forget.
Yeah, my mind goes to, one less thing to edit. Not only during the live does it add production value, but then when you want to use this and post it on YouTube or cutting in clips, it's like, man, this is already done. I just have to really cut this out and send it off. I don't have to go into Resolve, into Premiere, into Final Cut, and add in my intros, my text, all that. So that's huge.
Absolutely. I did have some content around the history of where this came from. But one thing was, I was doing a podcast every week, recording for an hour, 2 hours. It would take me 6-7 hours to edit that podcast down to something that could be released. And by using a sort of live production tool set, I was able to just make that a one-shot recording and just either just use the VOD straight off Twitch or just it's just minimal stuff. But because I'd been editing for so long, I had all these kind of format points, and I'd break into a music break and there'd be different songs and there'd be different sort of title cards and all these different things going on every week. And I didn't want to lose that aspect of the podcast by doing it live. So, I figured out how to it was nice when I edited it, because I could sort of pick the perfect tune, song that was about the subject from my library of songs. I've got 150 tracks that I've recorded over the years sitting on my hard disk, so I'm sort of always rooting through that, looking for the right thing. But this way, at least to prepare for the live podcast, yes, I'd have to go and find a video clip and find a song and just sort of make 3 of those so that I've got them ready for when the conversation hits a certain point. But I was then able to just live edit those little format points in and just not have to do it in post, which is just brilliant. I absolutely love that live editing approach. It saves so much time. And we have Descript now, right, which does make it an awful lot easier than I was doing it in Final Cut, just because I like the way that editing works in Final Cut. But it's so time-consuming editing, and if you can just put a bit more effort up front, get all that for free, it's such a godsend. And it's more natural because you're just doing it in the moment rather than you're editing together all these random different disconnected levels of energy and sort of interrupting words and people trail off, and I just think it works better.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like no matter what, I'm always going to edit it just the way I am. I'm going to go through, especially if you're pulling out short clips. So I'd rather spend those couple hours finding the best clips, not spending an hour adding this text, adding that, and then having to go. And anyone that's edit, they know what, even if, especially if you're editing yourself, I don't want to listen to myself more than 15 minutes at a time, I feel like. So being able to read it into script, and then again, just you've already have these elements that are ready to go. So really your editing is now just find the right clips to put on the right platforms. I don't know. It helps streamline the entire process when you're looking at the entire workflow from thinking of this idea, doing the presentation, to getting it out and getting people to see it.
Absolutely. And I absolutely, like, I cut my teeth in the editing process, right? Like I hadn't like listened to the sound of my own voice like that ever before I started podcasting like 5 years ago, even though I'd done like live music streams and all that kind of thing. But like actually just I'm talking to my friend on a podcast. It took a long time to sort of get comfortable with that and learn what my little tics are. What I always say, sort of. That's like my like. You sort of learn your little tics and you sort of maybe get better at the performance as you go, and then you maybe also sort of start to realize what maybe doesn't need to be edited out. And like one really real moment for me was one week, because I'd really been editing hard on those things, one week that I'd gone, okay, I'm just going to be like much looser this week, and I left in what I thought was quite a lot of dead air and like too much space and too much thinking time. And like that's the week that someone's like tweeted about how brilliant the podcast was, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's encouragement that maybe I don't need to like micromanage this quite so much. But I definitely think it's a great way to learn. But if you can sort of get confident enough to do it in one shot, and this is what the tools I'm providing to really help you do, because even just the process of exporting the video is just time consuming, right?
Yeah. And I've noticed my best podcast or videos content in front of camera for me have been where I feel prepared and I know the content, and like my, whether it's a teleprompter or just notes on the screen or just like bullets, when it's like I know enough. And I feel like that's what's so great about Beat Sheet Studio. And I know I always think of like, I just in my career have heard the saying, like, you're hitting beats, you're hitting story beats, and that's just the impact, or when things are turning, when there's a transition. So I don't know, software like this, I feel like just fits in that so well.
Yeah, and it absolutely came out of that TV terminology. Like I was talking to a podcaster, he was doing these streams, he had lots of different guests and things, and he just said like, he was like, I just want to like a beat sheet. He had a couple of names for it. I like the name Beat Sheet. I'm using that, and here we are. Like it started off as, for me, it was the simplest app in the world. Just give me some text boxes and just like let me kind of like switch to different scenes. But now it's evolved into this whole virtual camera, video sharing, automatically connects to your iPad, connects to your phone as a camera, does all these things, but it's all still in that same end goal of just like, what's important is what you're going to say, is the structure, is those beats throughout your presentation that you want to hit. And so the fact that they're part of your streaming of the software, of your like virtual camera thing, it fits together so perfectly. And I was trying to figure out how to bring all these things together for so long, and when I realized that's where it all fits, and it's content driven, it's sort of beat by beat, step by step, what am I going to say, what am I trying to communicate, it's all driven by that. And I think that makes it really useful and really unique, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, because it Shoot on its own is great, Video Pencil on its own is a powerhouse, but I remember when you first showed me, when I opened up and just seeing it all on the sidebar, it's like not only did the phone automatically connect, but there's all the settings. I don't need to open a website. There's no other apps. It's already right there. And then when I'm done with it, hide it. Video Pencil, same thing. So I think that's a really smart way that you can keep it in house. And so I know a lot of this talk has been virtual camera, but I assume can you record on this, or is there a way to record what I'm doing on Beat Sheet to use later? Or maybe that's in the future update.
Look, it's going to be a 1.1 feature because I want to do a really good job on it. So I don't want to just give you a record button and it spits out a video file. I want to give you a record button, it gives you a video file. It also gives you like timestamps of when you switch to each section in YouTube format, so that they act as chapter markers in YouTube. I want it to like automatically transcribe that and like give you a ChatGPT summary of what you said. In a format that you can paste into to where you're publishing it. I want to make it like really nice the way it does that. I mean, I'll probably just record the file in the meantime, but that's kind of there's so many steps to publishing that are just annoying and I absolutely hate, that I think could just be folded into that recording step, because I know when you press next and I know when that title appeared on screen, because BeatSheet has a timer going as soon as you press play, and now I can just save you having to go through the thing and like type 0.33 is when I went to this section. So I just want to sort of solve all of those pain points, the publishing pain points, as I do it. Obviously, it's different if you're like editing it into script first, then that doesn't work. But if you just want to do a one take, I think this will be a godsend. I love doing a one take myself.
Yeah, and just for the people like me that care about computer processing speed and all that, in general, how much of a haul is this on my computer? Are you going to be able to use BeatSheet Studio if you have a slightly older machine, or should I not be running any other programs while running this? How do you feel about that? I mean, clearly I know the answer because you run about 20 things at the same time, and you're still here. You're still here. So
Look, to some extent, like this, the M1, the Apple Silicon era has like opened a lot of doors, because I was on my Intel Mac, top spec, I don't know, $4,000 MacBook Pro. As soon as I was running like OBS or Ecamm, my CPU was at like 90%, 150% the whole time, and it just I was desperate to sort of figure out how to reduce the strain on that, and I've just not had any of that really on the Intel on the Apple Silicon, but I don't think we need to be churning resources for this stuff. Like, if I do my job well, we should not be using a lot of CPU. So at every stage I've been like leveraging the most difficult to use but lowest level frameworks in order to try and make it as performant as possible. That's been very difficult. Like, the early betas were like really crazy with how much CPU and like RAM and memory leaks and all sorts of things going on. But at the moment, I've got like, a couple of years old M1 MacBook Pro. It's not like not the top spec. It's not a Pro Max or anything like that, but it's sort of idles around like 30% like CPU, and like I'm like, that's freaking amazing. And I want to just double check that I'm not like misremember, because I haven't got it open, but I do have like a CPU, and
you
it
do
sort of
have a
depends
reader,
on what
yeah.
you're doing to some extent. Yeah, I do have a little rate. I mean, maybe, yeah, okay, so maybe 30. I've been seeing it sometimes when it's not doing much, it can be around like 30%. Right now, it is sitting. I think I can do better than 60%, but like, it's sort of depends what it's connected to sometimes. But my very earnest goal and expectation of this as I go, as I launch it, is like, it's not, you're going to be able to run as much other stuff as you like. Like, you're going to be able to run this alongside Ecamm Live and a web browser with a load of tabs. Like, that should not be, like, you shouldn't be prohibited. I haven't done a lot of testing on Intel. I have my Intel Mac down here. I have been a bit scared to test this.
Is that your footrest? Wait, so your old Intel Mac, that's your footrest? Is that what you're saying?
It's in a drawer. I've been meaning to sell it, but like, I bought a cheap cable on Amazon and fried 2 of the USB ports, and I'm really bummed out about that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, now will I get the price I want? But anyway, I've got that there. I need to test on it, but I put an awful lot of energy into the performance of this, and I also have someone that's sending me a lot of like energy usage reports all the time, who's testing it every day. It's good. It's like, it's feeling good. But actually, like, if you're on Apple Silicon, it's not going to turn your fan on for sure.
No, I have like the M1 Max, just for the video editing, and it's definitely the first, especially laptop, I'll say, guaranteed, that I've ever been like, wow, I don't need more power. It's like one of the first computers I've just been like, oh, I mean, it's gonna render, I know, but compared to what I've been using, is crazy. I feel like the only thing I wish is it was easier to plug in multiple 4K cameras, not just using like the one ATEM Mini and switching from that, but I would love to use like all my professional cameras and jam them into the computer, but one day.
Yeah, we definitely, like, it would be very easy for me to just lean on the amazingness of Apple Silicon, but I am actually like putting a lot of energy into not just like cheap. I want it to be like, I know where it should sit. I think if it's 30-40% CPU, I think that's
pretty
what
great.
it's doing is like, it's not going to like break anything.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Because it's not a software you need to be running unless you're using it. But like you've said before, I mean, I've been able to run this in other softwares just because I forgot to completely quit out, and then I jump into editing or something else. So it's not even so much where I'm not able to edit or do other work with it running in the background. So that's nice.
And I've started like forgetting to quit it when I'm just running on battery power, and I've done a load of stuff. I've worked like all afternoon, and oh god, BeatSheet Studio is running this whole time. I should probably have quit that. Like, so it's still doing stuff, but like you are yeah, and there's loads of stuff I can do as well. I could just like if you're just editing a script, there's no reason for me to be sending the webcam. There's always new ways to optimize, right? And it will definitely get better over time. But like I do think it's something you should be able to just have running all the time, because you think of something that you want to talk about later. You just want to be able, that's what I want that to be, your notepad. It's not like your video. I don't want it to be like your Ecamm Live. I want it to be like your Apple Notes app as well. So it does really need to have a tiny footprint for that to be useful. And I think we're getting there. And that's definitely a goal of it. And I'm having ideas right now as we talk about it.
Great, nice.
To make it even better. Something that this is a new era for me is not just like winging everything.
Yeah.
And that goes from like playing music, like coming into a meeting, doing a presentation. Like I've always just kind of like just jumped in. I love the magic that can happen, right? Like, not just like in a Zoom call, but like, I had this weekly club night back like 10, 11, 12 years ago or something, where one of my favorite nights ever was I was on stage doing my sort of laptop performance, and some guy saw that I had a trumpet. He came up and he was like, oh yeah, can I play the trumpet? And then I'm jamming with this guy and I'm playing the music and people are dancing. And like, it was one of the greatest things. And I could not have planned for that. And you do get this magic from those like unexpected things. But like, I think it's also like, it's good to be a bit prepared as well, because it can go much worse if you don't sort of like get yourself ready.
I would say like for me, it depends on the intention. A more casual networking event, I think looser is better because you can kind of go with it. But if you're presenting something on camera, you're going live stream because there is a professional reason, there's a money reason behind it all. I feel like my best work is when I end up having like 5 to 10 bulleted notes versus like a whole script. It's just this topic and don't forget this one little thing. And if I can get prepared enough that I can do a whole presentation off bullets, then I just feel more confident anyway. I just think it comes out more natural, more authentic.
Yeah. And I think like I've had the odd person sort of want to know how they can write their, tens of thousands of words in this, but I'm sort of like, I don't think that's going to be a good presentation. I think you need to leave space to breathe. I think you need to sort of like brevity, like, work on the language, make that sort of concise, but you only need a few cards. You don't need like every last word you're going to say to be written out to do a good presentation. And that's sort of, so I think there's a sweet spot, as you say, and that's sort of the same sweet spot that I'm shooting for with BeatSheet.
Well, I think it's easy to find your own sweet spot, because sometimes when I talk about technical things, I just need more text. I just want to make sure I'm saying the right mathematical equation or, what the measurement, whatever it is with camera settings, I need to know it. And then sometimes if it's more about lighting, to be honest, I just want like a couple bullets. That's it. Because I find lighting is such an organic practice that I'm not measuring my lights usually unless we're going back to reshoot. So it's like I'd rather have more of a free-flowing and the potential. So moving forward from this, I know BeatSheet this minute, is there a release date? And up until then, where should people go to kind of learn more, get their hands on what you're working on these days?
The website I want people to come to if they're interested. So BeatSheet Studio is the works. If you want it, get to beatsheet.studio. It's actually sort of a bit of a placeholder website, but anything you click on that is going to pop up the mailing list sign up. So just like sign up to Squares TV mailing list, you're going to be like, you're going to hear about it. You're also going to hear about my weekly live streams and stuff like that as well. That's where to come. End of August is when I want to release. We've got a Discord as well, squares.tv/Discord. If you have a question, I'm going to answer that question. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing. So get on Discord, get on email, ask me questions. There's a beta program as well. If you want to try the beta, I can give you that. Just drop me an email or message on Discord.
Yeah, and I'm part of the Discord too. So it is pretty active, and anytime people are asking questions, you're there to answer. You're sharing the updates. And then anytime you want to see the live streams, you're posting when you're going live and the YouTube videos around it. Beatsheet.studio is where to start, but Discord is the community hub, it seems, where you're putting a lot of the things first, and then a newsletter as well. Well, Michael, thank you again for taking the time to walk us through. And if anyone wants to find out more, please check out beatsheet.studio, the Discord. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll get emailed as soon as it's available. But just get there. You'll love it. All right, cool. Thanks, Michael.